What's up, everybody? The holidays are finally here, and I wanted to bring you guys a Christmas special. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how one of our favorite animals in the reptile room, Tiny Tim, got his name, his origin story, and how we turned his horrible situation into a good one in the end. Alrighty guys, so for those of you who have been watching the channel for quite a while, I'm sure you recognize this guy right here. And for those of you who are new subscribers to the channel, first of all, I'd like to say welcome. This is Tiny Tim. So let me explain the first day that I encountered Tiny Tim. So the first day that I met this little leopard gecko was on December 26th, a few years back, when me and a few of my teammates were opening up one of the pet stores that I used to work for in the past. Now, of course, this was the day after Christmas in December, and there was snow on the ground. And there was a cardboard box outside of the store. Now, when we saw this cardboard box, we're like, wow, what could be in here? Is this something that needed to be dropped off from a delivery? What could it possibly be? And it had Merry Christmas written on the front of it, so we're thinking, hey, maybe somebody made a donation or dropped something off to the store. Unfortunately, this was not the case. We opened up the box, and we found a leopard gecko, this guy, inside. And of course, leaving a leopard gecko in a cardboard box and towards the end of December in front of a pet store is not a responsible way to give up an animal that you can no longer care for, right? So of course we rushed the animal inside, we tried to get him warm, and this little guy was in really bad condition at the time. He was covered in skin from previous sheds, not like he was in shed from a recent shed where he was just getting ready to get the new skin off. There was layers and layers of old skin on top of this poor animal, and he had shed all stuck to his eyeballs. Now, if you get a good look at this guy, he still has full function of both of his eyes, and luckily, through the help of a few vets and people coming in and looking at him, we were able to get all of the shed skin that was stuck to his eyeballs out, and now he is in very good condition. Now, to continue the story, this guy was also emaciated. He was so skinny, you could see his ribs, you could see the bones in his tail. He had very deep indents near his midsection and near his neck, and you could see all the little shapes and all the little indents from his skull. This guy was in really bad shape. He may also have been on his way to developing MBD from the lack of nutrition and, of course, the poor care that this animal was receiving. Now, of course, this is very concerning to a group of people who work in a pet store because, now, it doesn't matter which pet store it is, but I believe that most people, at least the people that I've worked with in pet stores, really cared for animals and liked animals, right? So everyone's worried. We get the animal in, we set up a tank for him real quick, give him water, we gave him a humid hide, called the vet, do all these different things to try to get this little guy going, right? First thing the vet did was come in, assess the animal, get him as cleaned up as possible, help him with any stuck shed that was stuck on his eyes and things like that, and we got the little guy going. And honestly, for this video, I wish that I documented at the time what this little guy looked like as before and after. But of course, guys, as you know nowadays in 2021, about to be 2022, with social media being as big as it is, a lot of times human beings will see a bad situation and say, wow, that's crazy. Look how out of the ordinary that is. I should film it instead of taking action and trying to help. Well, that wasn't the case here. We didn't want to take a whole bunch of pictures of this animal and say, wow, look at this animal that's in horrible condition. What we wanted to do was get our hands dirty and get the animal some help, right? And honestly, the team did the best job that they possibly could, but of course, when you're working for a pet store, you're at work, And for the pet shop that we had, since it wasn't one of the bigger stores where your job is basically to deal with one department or one area of the store, and a mom and pop shop, you do everything in the pet store, everything from inventory to sales to dealing with reptiles, birds, mammals, anything that the store possibly deals with, you're getting your hands in all of it, right? Of course, with that being the case, we didn't really have the time to give this animal the attention that it needed because, of course, we have to do our jobs. So after a few days and talking to my boss, I gave the proposal of, hey, since this guy needs more time than we are able to allocate for him here in the pet shop, let me take the animal home. It was a part-time job, so it wasn't working long hours. And let me take care of him at home, so at least then when I am home, I can give this animal my full time and attention all the way around the course of the day when I'm not at work, and help this little guy get back to good health. I told my boss when I bring him back to the store, you could sell him, adopt him out to a good home, do whatever you want to do. I just want to make sure that this little guy survives and that he has a better chance of recovering. My boss, being the good guy that he is, he said, sure, that's a great idea. I understand the situation, I trust you, take the animal home, do what you gotta do, right? So I took the animal home, and of course at the time, the main practice that we saw for leopard geckos back then was to leave a dish of calcium with vitamin D3 in the leopard gecko's enclosure, rather than having UVB and all these other things that are becoming more of a norm nowadays, right? So what I did to get this guy up to a healthy weight, I fed him a diet of mostly waxworms to put some fat on his body. Also, they're very small and easy to catch compared to crickets and other things of that nature that move very fast. So it's easy to get some food in this guy. And I would dust them with calcium with vitamin D3 just so the animal was able to absorb some calcium into his bones. Now, don't get me wrong, I do agree that the synthetic vitamin D3 that you find in calcium is metabolized differently rather than the more natural way of them synthesizing vitamin D3 within their own bodies from the UVB light. But of course, at the time, I didn't know about the benefits of UVB for leopard geckos, and I didn't really know as much as I know now. I was just doing the best that I could at the time with the information that I was being taught in that time period, right? So over the next couple of months, I started to notice that this leopard gecko was starting to gain more weight. He was quite flighty, so whoever had this leopard gecko before probably wasn't taking him out of the tank, and he actually was quite a bit nippy. I don't think people were handling him, or if they were handling him, I don't think they were handling this little guy properly. But after some time, when he gained some weight, and I noticed that when he was walking, his legs weren't as wobbly as they were before. His legs were becoming much stronger, and I think that his bones were becoming more dense with calcification. This guy recovered, and I noticed that, as you can see right now, see how he's walking on my arm and he's lifting his belly up off of the ground? When I first got him, he was dragging his belly on the ground. And that's one thing I want to stress to you guys. If you have a leopard gecko and that animal's dragging its belly on the ground rather than walking upright, where you can see a good amount of space between the ground and the animal's stomach, then that's a problem, and that's something that you should look into. But anyway, so his gait became a lot better. He gained more weight. This animal was almost completely gray when I first got him. Now, if you look at him, just like any normal phase leopard gecko, he's yellow, purple, he has all the spotting, he has all these amazing colors that you weren't able to see before. And of course, if you look at this guy, he has quite a bit of size to him and has some healthy weight. And of course, as time went on, I, of course, know that I had to bring this animal back to the pet shop because since the animal was dropped off there, it was only right that I bring him back. So I brought him back to my boss and I asked him, I said, hey, listen, man, so this whole situation was really bad for this leopard gecko, and I don't want the same type of horrible situation to happen to this poor little guy again. He's already been through enough. Let's work something out. Do you want me to buy him from you? I would really like to adopt this animal. What do you want to do, right? Well, when I talked to my boss about it, he was like, you know what, man, I'm looking at this leopard gecko and he's in such good condition and you did such a good job with it. Again, I'm not, and of course, I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to say that I'm like the greatest keeper in the world or anything. I'm just saying that what he told me. But he was like, this animal looks like it's in good condition. You did a good job of bringing the animal back up to health. And since you were the one who really put the time and effort in, it doesn't feel right for me to make you pay for him after you've done right by this animal. So you can adopt him, but I'm not going to charge you anything. And of course, I took this little guy home. And at the time, I was keeping my leopard geckos, both of them, of course, because even though this guy was adopted and I bought geckos first, I didn't want to treat them any differently. Like this animal was just a throwaway animal that I was just helping out, but not giving the same type of attention. So of course, both of these animals were on a very basic setup of reptile carpet with a bowl of calcium in the enclosure that contained vitamin D3. I would dust his insects with a multivitamin once a week. And I was also using night bulbs. Now, if you look at this animal's enclosure, it's completely different than what he had before. This guy has a proper bioactive substrate mix. He also has full spectrum and UVB lighting that is appropriate for Eublepharis macularis. He started off in a 10-gallon tank, which is what we had at the time, because the first thing we thought was get a tank set up, get this little guy warm. At the time, we weren't worried about exercise. We were just worried about getting him in a container where we can actually hold some heat around this little guy. And now he is in a 24 by 18 by 12 Exoterra. He has 4 hides: warm hide, cool hide, humid hide, and a 4th hide that is right under his UVB. So that way he can do his version of basking, where the animal can stick his tail or his legs out while he's sleeping and absorb some of those good UV rays that, of course, he would use in order to synthesize vitamin D3 so that way he can absorb calcium. He's getting a diet of almost 90% dubia roaches now, which, of course, as you guys know, compared to all the other feeders, they're one of the more expensive feeders to get. Now, of course, to me, I don't think they're really that expensive for a keeper. But my point is that this guy's getting premium food. He's in a much better enclosure, and he's in a much better situation and much better health than he used to be. And as you can see, he's not nippy at all right now. He's sitting on my shoulder. He is an animal that's very used to being handled the proper way now. He's very strong. A lot of fun to play with and observe. And in my opinion, he is now a very healthy and well cared for pet. And of course, this situation could have ended very tragic, because leaving almost any reptile out in the middle of the winter time is basically a death sentence for this animal. Thank goodness that we came and opened up the store at the time that we did, because if he had been out there for too long, of course this poor little guy could have perished. But thank goodness we got the doors open, we got this little guy warm. I was able to take him home. I was able to not only get this guy back up to proper health, but I also made improvements over the time and improved my husbandry for both of my leopard geckos in the most healthy environment as possible. And of course, they are in a loving home, and they are both thriving and doing quite well. So of course, Tiny Tim is now doing great, and I believe this little guy is an awesome pet, and we're gonna have him for a very long time here on the channel. He's a joy to keep and an awesome pet. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching this Christmas special of Scales 13. Thank you for watching this video. Everyone have a great day. Peace.